It's about time that I approached this topic. I've been wanting to open this discussion for over a year. I just realized that it's very, very delicate. I rarely speak about it in my events or with friends or in my community. So that's Patreon. So I rarely talk about it. However, it is something that I do have a bit of personal experience. And this is also what makes it so difficult for me to share, because I care a lot about my privacy. However, for me, transcendent sex is a very, very sacred topic. It's something very dear to me. It's something that is very important to my life, to sexuality. It's what brought me. It's the main thing that brought me on the path of sexual growth, of becoming an intimacy coach. And please believe me, the first person that I coach, this is my main work. I don't imagine any other way to be a coach if I don't first and foremost work with myself. So let's see. First of all, the topic or the name, transcendent sex. In my understanding, because I'm only going to share from my understanding, it's an experience that starts with sexual arousal, with your erotic fires lit, but it transcends the physical experience that you customarily or usually have. I'm going to put an asterisk here because some people have only this experience. I believe those people are blessed. I believe that's a grace, but we're going to come back. Most of us have human experiences where there's the full spectrum, ideally. So arousal, pleasure, lots of it, lots and lots of it. The way that it's good for the both, or how many people are involved. And then there's a peak or more peaks, or just high waves of pleasure. That is also a way in which you can express sexually. Not necessarily with an orgasm and then everything dies, meaning the whole experience is over and you get to the afterglow. No, so some people just ride waves of pleasure. Higher waves of pleasure, they can go like this for a long time. I also believe that those people are very, very fortunate. But then again, there's an ending to it. So an afterglow, meaning the pleasure and the glowing inside, not necessarily outside, okay? It's inside. And usually the afterglow is a good indicator that the experience shared was beneficial for everyone there, okay? It helped them relax, unwind, purge emotions, and we're getting into sexual healing here also. Purge emotions, discharge tension, pressure, or charge themselves, because that's also something that beautiful, intimate connections can do. They can charge you up. You don't have to discharge something in sex. You can just charge up. That means that you have a routine and a discipline of discharging every negative stuff before you go in bed. It's an approach. It's not mandatory. It's an approach. And in those moments, you just charge up with all the beautiful things that sex also has to offer. Not too many people think of it in this term. Usually the people who have a certain discipline of, like I said, not just taking a shower, so physically removing any unpleasant stuff, but also emotionally. So they do a practice, they release all the negative stuff, and then they go fresh, fresh physically and also psychologically and emotionally or spiritually, if you believe in that, into the experience. So then there's an afterglow, and in the afterglow, if you have the time, if you don't fall asleep immediately, you have the time to also understand, to give it meaning. To give meaning in intimacy to a physical act is a function of the erotic. Okay, the erotic is the unseen part. It's not the physical stuff, okay? Arousal, positions, pleasure, orgasm, movements, whatever. No, it's not the observable, it's what happens inside. The aspirations, the emotions, the fantasies, or the meaning that you assign, that you give to the experiences that you have. Okay, and that's something that everybody does independently. Most people do that when they do it super fast. They don't take the time to really sit with that and let that thing marinate. Okay, the thinking, the reflection, the contemplation within them. A lot of people tend to be more mechanical or faster with intimacy. Again, this is not a criticism or a judgment. This is a description. Okay, so some people take more time in the afterglow. Not every day, okay, not with every act, but sometimes they do that. Well, the transcendent sex that I was talking about, and we're going to talk about this one, goes beyond this. Something happens with your entire consciousness. A few examples without this being an exhaustive list. You can either simply cease to have any thought, any kind of thought, for a certain amount of time, just like in meditation. You can start to feel or see or hear beyond the physical, real, everyday, mundane experiences. What does that mean? You can have a vision. You can hear things. Some people can start to speak in different tongues. It does happen. Some people, transcendent sex, see past lives. We're gonna get to where I get this whole information from. Some people can simply feel more in tune with their soul. Okay, they can feel their expansive soul in those moments. Now, transcendent sex, it can happen with a partner or on your own. It can happen while you're awake or while you are sleeping. We're not talking just about a wet dream, different experience. We're talking about an exaltation of the soul, which can come in the shape of emotions, things that they hear, voices that transmit beautiful things, and it starts with an arousal, like I said, but it's transcendent sex. They can see things beyond the scope of their own lives. Like I said, visions. These things can happen. Do they happen to everyone? No. Do they happen to every couple? No. Do they happen with a certain discipline? No. These are not things, these experiences, they are not something that somebody can guarantee that you have them if you do a certain technique. That's not it. That's really not it. Transcendent sex, just like a vision, just like a leap in your consciousness, comes usually as a form of grace. Okay, so something inside you altogether was ready for that moment. Okay, the consciousness, your entire being, your soul, was ready to access that. And it's usually given because like I said, these are exalted states of the soul. Usually they are given in a certain stage of somebody's life. So somebody could be in extreme suffering, and these things can come to ease their suffering. Sometimes it does happen like that. At other times, the person did put in a lot of work, okay? Work to clean themselves from within. Okay, work to understand. So therapy, spiritual practices to keep their emotions and their thoughts as clean as possible for the context of their own lives. Okay, there's no unique standard here for everybody. But usually, let's say people with prayer, contemplation, meditation, breath work, guided focusing, other kinds of practices. Some people, for instance, they go outdoor and stay with the elements, so in nature, with no roof over their head. It's the people who can sustain that physically. It's not just for everybody. They sleep outdoor. They bathe in water running water, cold running water from mountains, hills, wherever it is. So they stay in nature for a certain amount of time, and then this kind of experience can reach them. With other people, in the city, in the village, in the temple, wherever they are, they have a certain spiritual practice. So this is a practice of contemplating your own thoughts, processing. It's a lot of conscious work, basically, with yourself. Understanding what got you where you are, understanding what triggered you in what way, and then also a conscious practice with the body included here to release the whole thing. So keep your canvas, the soul inside you, the canvas as clean as possible. And when that happens long enough, some people, yes, whenever they feel love, and we're talking, it's not just a physical arousal. We're talking about somebody, they meet somebody who just awakes them, like they lit up, sort of like a Christmas tree, from the root or trunk and branches all the way to the top. Okay, so they lit up inside everywhere. They feel alive, their entire being. It's not just an arousing thing. It's not just, oh, this person is hot, I want to go to bed with him. No, it's more, usually. Okay? Does it happen with only men and women? First of all, it can happen solo. For whatever reason, some people, either they do a conscious self-pleasuring practice, and because they were in the right mind, emotional, physical space, they can have that experience on their own. Okay, that's also possible. Some people can have it with the same, like in an exploration with somebody of the same sex, because if the atmosphere is appropriate or right for the two, yes, they can have that experience. Usually it's mutual. So if one person, like, it doesn't happen just on one side. Okay, when the, how do I say this? The consciousness in them is so strong, it's activated. It's usually activated in the two if it's done in pairs. I haven't heard, maybe it is possible, but I haven't heard of this happening between more than the self or two people. That I have not heard of. Again, it might be possible. It's not something that is down my lane. I'm not interested in that. Like, you gotta respect your own boundaries, so I would never know from an embodied experience. But from an embodied experience, I know about the solo, and I know about the being with somebody special. Does this mean, let's say that if you have this experience with somebody else, does it mean that you're gonna stick with that person for life? Not always. It's not always the case. Some people in the same relationship with the person can have the experience once and then never again. Other people, like I said in the beginning, these are very, very fortunate people. They can have this beautiful experience over and over. Also, people who have suffered from traumatic sexual experiences, even though a traumatic sexual experience in terms of transcendent sex will reduce your capacity to access it. Okay, traumatic experiences, not all, but if they are very, very, there are degrees of being traumatized. People that have been through extended, sustained traumatic experiences, yes, they can have the sexual pleasure, the function of sexual pleasure diminished. However, even for those people, transcendent sexual experiences are still available. Like I said, this is a grace that is being given. At the right moment, at the right time, you can help, but you can't guarantee that it comes. You can help with doing self-cleansing practices. And those practices can differ according to what you resonate with. Some people, it's just meditation. Other people, it's cleansing, you know, with purging with, what's the word? Oh, with fumigation? You know, with sage, when you burn sage and then you clean yourself, or when you burn Palo Santo. Why fumigatie? That's what we call it in Romanian. I don't, I'm not going to say a smoke screen, because it's not a smoke screen. It's a purge with burning incense, basically. Some people can cleanse themselves. This is a very powerful practice. You go in nature, in running water from nature. You stay under it as long as you can take it. It's really, really cold. Not everybody can stand those cold plunges or cold showers. But we're talking water in natural elements, okay? Water that comes from the earth and flows down rocks, not pipes, old pipes with that's already used in various other places, and it has chemical substances, and then it's not that water. I'm talking about natural, clean water that, okay, outdoors. Other people can do that with breath work. I use breath work a lot. It's very accessible. You can do that anywhere, so long as the air is not highly polluted. We gotta say this. If the air is too polluted, it's really not recommended to do intense breathwork practices in those moments. But breathwork is usually the most accessible. A lot of people don't realize how powerful this is, especially for transcendent sexual experiences. You breathe also in those moments, so you not only can enhance the physical pleasure that you feel in those moments, but you can also help with the right kind of breathing for the individual, because everybody has a different breathing intensity and breathing rhythm that will get them to focus better. Be present, lose any kind of conscious thoughts, and therefore tap into the transcendent, beautiful experiences, so they can open up their soul and open up to a lot of experiences. Like I said, access past lives, speak in tongues, feel or perceive things that are beyond the scope of their own lives otherwise. Okay, inspiration. A lot of people can find inspiration there. So those are beautiful, beautiful moments. Usually they happen because the individual is ready for them, and those experiences make sense overall in their lives. All right, it's also transcendent sex is a very powerful healing tool. It is. Okay, if for whatever reason in your life this is not necessary, it's not going to happen to you. That's also something that needs to be said. And I mentioned also in the beginning that I would tell you a source. It's not the only one, but it's a beautiful, like, first and foremost, it's important that everybody have their own experiences, okay? And for that, practices can help you. They can't guarantee it, but they can help you get there. That's what I do. So first, before I even read about this stuff, before I even had any other discussions with other people, I had my embodied experiences. Not that many, but I did have them. They just happened because I was in the right space and I was with the right person. Did I stick with the person for life? No. No, because just because you have those experiences, it doesn't mean that you're meant to build a life together with the person. Okay, we also have to differentiate here. The experiences come in the right environment. You don't even have to be in a relationship for some people. They can just happen because you're ready and it's the right soil, let's say, for this. Okay, the right dynamic, the right interaction, the right setting. Everything is just right for you to experience those things. So after I had my experiences, and I had them, I didn't know what they were at the time. Many years later, what I've noticed is that whenever I tend to feel love for somebody, those get triggered. It's not very easy it's not very frequently that I fall in love or feel love for somebody. It's very, very rare. And in my case, because it wasn't reciprocated, I could never, in the situation where I really felt that very powerfully, and I was lighting up like a Christmas tree from within me, the person had no clue what was going on. Like, he probably saw something in me, but he was indifferent. I never shared what was going on. I mean, you can't get past the lack of reciprocity. And they don't happen with everybody. Also, it's not very frequent that I meet somebody and feel all these things for. Very rarely. It's an INFJ thing, I think. However, after having those, I came across a book. It was written in 1999. I don't know what you guys were doing in 1999. I was not even having sex in 1999. I wasn't. I was not aware of these things. But it was written then. It is called Transcendent Sex. Here it is on screen. I have it in print. So however you want to read it, I remember reading this, like the first few chapters were they kind of intimidated me in a way, because some of those experiences were pretty heavy, at least for me. I tend to be more sensitive. So I left the book for several months. I was so pissed off that I thought it was going to be easier for me to read it. And then I started from the beginning and I finished it in the end. I really enjoyed it, and so I had to get over the first few chapters, which were heavy for me to process. However, the book doesn't give any recipes, because as you will read in that book, the people who shared, because in 1999 the author, a psychotherapist, she did a survey with a lot of people. There was no generalized information about the spiritual practices, visions, meditations, transcending, transcendental yoga and Kundalini activations and whatever other things, okay? There were no preset notions in people's minds, so they just had them spontaneously. That's why the book written then is so clean of mental predispositioning or priming. You're going to see in that book, the people did nothing those experiences just came to them. Not all of them had a spiritual practice. Some people had them only once in their lives and that was it. Other people, not that many, had them repeatedly within the same relationship. So those were the lucky ones. And nobody could say how they got there. There's no recipe for it, like I said. I think this is one of the reasons that this topic, it is so delicate to explain, okay? If you don't have any kind of meditation practice, if you don't have any kind of spiritual, not awakening, just any kind of spiritual experiences of your own, not necessarily in intimacy, it's really, really hard to understand what an expanded state or exalted state of the soul is. It's really, 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 like, to describe bliss is really, really hard to do it unless you've had any kind of, and I'm not talking taking drugs. I actually don't remember if anybody did drugs in that book and also had that experience. I really don't. Yeah, if they did, I must have forgotten about it. But it's really, really difficult to explain it otherwise. However, those things can happen, okay? So you see things, you hear things, you feel, okay? Exalted states, you feel them. In case you've stuck with me so far, then I want to remind you, one, these are a sign of grace, okay? They happen for you at the right time, if they are meant to happen at all. It's not mandatory, okay? There's no standard with this. That's one. Secondly, you can help yourself. It's not going to be a guarantee, but you can help yourself by doing regular cleansing practices. That's why I do the things that I do, and that's why I have my Patreon community. It's full of such practices. Okay? If you feel that I can be in any way an inspiration or a guide for you, then by all means check out my Patreon community. You can subscribe and you can try, especially the breathwork practices. There's a collection there with breathwork practices. That is the easiest one. You don't have to light fumes in your house. You don't have to go search for running water out in nature and do that. You can do breathwork practices so long as you don't live in a really polluted air place. You can do them anytime, okay? And in time, because this is something that accrues in time, in time, you're going to see that your experiences are going to be lighter and lighter, okay? Because we usually need to release the psychological and emotional baggage that we carry. It's not an easy world to be in for these kinds of states. Okay, so we can do those things. For some people, it might take years. For some people, it might take months. There's also no guarantee. However, this is one ingredient that you can bring. It can help. So drop me some sparks, okay, to let me know that you made it this far. And I wish you a beautiful experience with or without transcendent sex. And whatever you choose for yourself, remember that contemplation, purging practices are a really beautiful tool that can help these experiences come along. I'll see you next time. Bye.